When our parents finished school, they walked out into the world free of war, blossoming economic rise of the US as the world's soon-to-be only superpower. No inflation, no housing crisis.
Welcome to one of the most expensive homes in the entire world.
No job crisis.
From the people turning bugs into a resin used to make jelly beans, to miners looking for valuable, petrified wood fossils. These are the people working some of the world's most dangerous jobs.
And scientific discoveries in all kinds of fields, of course, and many more things people like to imagine about those days, which was pretty much all true. This is the type of thing Gen Alpha will be seeing when they enter the workforce. Hold on, did I say enter workforce? Psych! Good luck with that if Gen Z already be struggling with entry-level jobs.
38% of entry-level jobs required 3 to 5 years of experience. In industries like manufacturing and software services, that number jumps to well over 50%.
Good luck getting any job at all that don't require you to study for like 20 years to get an above average paycheck. Companies like Amazon and UPS already replaced thousands of senior employees and are planning to cut hundreds of thousands in the near future because whether you want to see it or not, we, yes we my friend, are entering the peak of automation and AI adoption. Jobs traditionally seen as safe, clerical, entry-level corporate, some creative fields may be heavily augmented by AI by 2028. Gen Alpha will have enormous pressure to constantly upskill if they want to keep bread on the table. I'm gonna cut to the chase, being the first generation to be raised fully with tablets, smartphones, and AI from birth. They will face heightened risks of anxiety, attention issues, social comparison, social isolation despite the connectivity, no online privacy, no friends, and no bitch. Quite literally because their parents didn't make them touch some grass. Much easier to give your son or daughter a tablet where they can watch Cocomelon instead of going with them for a walk, or just playing with them yourself after your 8-hour shift. I do want to make an emphasis that while the main reason why Gen Alpha may not be able to function when they become young adults is because a lot of them can't read, can't show basic human respect, got to film everything for the cloud, that's precisely why I blame the parents, because as soon as their children left the womb, they were stuffed with all this technology their little dopamine-starved brain couldn't handle at that age. Man, I mean, many of you watching this video be scrolling YouTube and TikTok for like 12 hours a day, and we are the generation that grew up with technology. They are grown up in the technology almost from literal birth, because parents don't feel like giving attention to their crying child, so they give them iPads instead of trying to be a parent and teacher. Let me return to what I was saying earlier. Those are the internal problems, or let's just call it as it is, mental health issues. While that can be fixed by yourself, I'm not saying it's easy, just saying that it can be done. Do it! Or if you can afford it with the help of a psychologist, the so-called external problems cannot be solved.
Geopolitics.
Now that's a whole different level, since if you ain't a politician, you can't do anything. And if a housing crisis can't really hurt you physically, but if you're one of the millions of European Gen Alphas that actually live in Europe, oh man, do I have some bad news for you. Well, I mean, it's gonna suck for us all, but mostly Gen Z, because several German NATO officials and analysts have warned Russia could be capable of striking NATO in the late 2020s. 2028, 2029 is a commonly cited window. If you're Gen Alpha and thinking about, oh, by the time I turn 18, all major conflicts in the world will have been resolved, I want to remind you that the most brutal war ever since the end of World War II will enter into a 4-year stretch, where full NATO and American support, and the signs that this war will end in the near future, well, they don't exist. And if you're from Asia, oh, do I also have some bad news for you.
我在北京。老天保佑，金山银山全部有。老天教唆别管江湖路。
So, being stifled with technology from little birth, having no meaningful connection with their parents and other people their age, seeing World War III unfold before their eyes, maybe even participating, doesn't sound all that exciting. But what could be worse than a potential reality in which you are subjugated by a foreign power in a potential World War III scenario? I guess you could say being subjugated by your own government. It's no secret that governments all around the world are trying to pass laws and
regulations
that contradict with basic internet privacy and basic human rights. The United Kingdom wants to introduce a digital ID centralized system where your most important information, like your full name, date of birth, nationality, residency status, address, is contained. To cut a long story short, the main problem with this is that it's centralized and will contain millions upon millions of data about people who live in the UK, and such a thing is highly anticipated by malicious actors, because even if one break or leak occurs, millions of people's photos, names, addresses, dates of birth, and so on will be used for exploitation. But most importantly, all this and additional data will be used by the government to tighten its grips on Gen Alpha's necks, as they're planning to fully implement this system by 2029. A band of European superpowers, if you can still call them that, wanted to pass the chat control regulation. This regulation would allow governments to scan your messages before they're encrypted, giving them a full picture of what you and your sneaky link were talking about on WhatsApp. If you think that this doesn't really matter, like internet privacy, it doesn't really matter as long as the government doesn't put a camera inside your house, I would disagree. Our whole lives happen in the internet. Just remember what you could do and say on the internet 10 years ago. Now, the biggest problem for Gen Alpha will probably be finding and most importantly keeping a job down, if you know what I mean, because once you find the job of your dreams, you could pretty easily lose it in a couple of years, best case scenario, maybe even in a couple of months, because in the future AI is probably going to be improving at a rate that we now can't really imagine. I mean we can't imagine it because remember what AI used to be a couple of years ago. Just a couple of years ago, AI went from this
It's rewind time.
to this. I'm not trying to go super deep into the AI job crisis, but the truth is, a huge chunk of today's AI and robotics startups are basically running on hype. It's the same pattern we saw during the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s, tons of companies with no real profits, just big promises. Eventually, investors realized the business models didn't actually work, and the whole thing crashed. But this doesn't matter, because there are still companies that do generate profit and make insane leaps in the AI and robotics development. So yeah, your job will be taken, but how could you possibly avoid it? Well, you can't really unless you constantly improve your skills.
Skill issue.
The age when you could learn a bit of programming and become an entrepreneur won't ever be completely gone, but in the new age, you have to be a polymath. You need to be relatively good at web design, programming, digital marketing, content creation, house plumbing. But as one of my friends, who am I lying? I don't have any friends. Anyways, as I was saying, if you don't really want to be in a scenario where you spend 4 years getting a
useless
degree and got in insane student debt just for your job to get taken by AI, then become part of the team AI and help it improve so it can take even more jobs. Now, I know it sounds kind of evil, but do you want to make money? Then this is how it is. You gotta be willing to do anything for that dollar.
Question.
Are you truly doing whatever it takes to reach your goals?